So the lettuce was defeated, but the potato was king, as we know. It outlasted Mr. Erik ten Hag, who has been given his marching orders, his P45, and sent on his merry way with a little £14.5 million in his back pocket for his troubles. God, it'd be great, wouldn't it? Now, honestly, could you or I or anybody else have done a worse job and still gotten paid? It never ceases to amaze me how crazy football is. You know, you've got this merry-go-round of managers who come in, get fired, piss off somewhere else, multi-million payoffs all the way along. If only we could all get that type of wage, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? So look, speaking of that, Manchester United, what are we saying? Are we worried about the links to Ruben Amorim? Because it's about time they sacked Ten Hag, let's be honest. He was never going to cut it there. And it's cost them about £14.5 million, according to Melissa Reddy, to bin off Erik ten Hag. And they have PSR issues. So if they go for Ruben Amorim, which is looking very, very likely based off David Ornstein saying exclusive, Manchester United working on a deal to appoint Ruben Amorim as head coach. Somebody else gone on then to say that there's a deal verbally agreed between Manchester United and Ruben Amorim. So he has a €10 million buyout clause in his sporting contract. So it's going to cost United about £22 million all in to sack Ten Hag and to appoint Amorim before you start paying him. So it looks like there's going to be a few more P45s handed out to the old lemmings at Old Trafford as Sir Jim Ratcliffe continues to come in and just slash and trim the fat off and just piss more money up against the wall by the looks of it. Long may it continue. So Revanite says Amorim is worrying. So I'll tell you in a second why I don't think it is initially worrying. I'm not going to sit here and say Amorim isn't a good coach. He's a very good coach. So on Amorim, the reason I wouldn't be worried initially about Ruben Amorim at Manchester United is I don't believe Manchester United have the right squad to suit Amorim's style of play. There are some players there, like Ugarte, who I think will flourish under Ruben Amorim. But ultimately, I think it's going to take them another season of transition, and he's probably going to want more money again in the market to spend. So at what point do Manchester United fans look at the higher ups at their club, no matter whether it's the Glazers, Jim Radcliffe or whoever it is, and ask at what point they are going to stop wasting their money? And that's what this is. It is United fans' season ticket money, jersey revenue and everything else that pays for this shit show up at Old Trafford. And it needs to, well, not for us. I hope it never stops. I hope we're sitting here laughing at them for years to come. But they need to figure something out because it's starting to become a bit of a running joke. It can't always be the manager's fault. Now, it is. Ten Hag is a shit manager. So, you know, you can say that. But how many managers have been and gone there since Sir Alex Ferguson? And nobody's come close to really getting it right. David Massett said, did the lettuce win? No, the lettuce was beaten. I'll give Ten Hag his credit on that one. He did outsee the lettuce. He managed to outdo the lettuce. When I came home from Turkey, the lettuce was dead. But the potato's still going strong. So, right, so I'm going to ask you for the first poll of the night. Does Amorim at United worry you if he gets the job? Well, so 1 second. Do you know what's going to come next as well? They're going to try and tell us that we couldn't get Amorim, United fans. That'll be the next thing from the watch. Even though we got the man we went after, they'll be trying to make out like Amorim wouldn't come to us, but he went to United. I can't wait for that conversation. Would Amorim at United worry you? Yes or no? Vote away. Shane said, I'm convinced Erik ten Hag will succeed elsewhere. He might do. It might just be the club wasn't the right fit for him. He never struck me, Shane, as a United manager. And one thing I would say, mate, is if he does go on elsewhere, I think he needs to start learning a little bit more humility, because maybe he's a lovely person, but it never really came across when I seen him interviewed. He always felt like he had an arrogance that his record didn't justify to me. And he needs to work on his man management skills as well, because I lost count of the amount of players that he fell out with in that United dressing room. But all of that being said, Shane, I do think that player power has been a problem at Manchester United for a long time. Certainly more so. Them and Chelsea, I would say, from the outside, look like they're the two clubs that have previously had issues around their dressing rooms and players getting managers thrown under the bus. Would Amorim at United worry you? So, 73% of you guys with over 1,000 votes have said no. And look, he wouldn't worry me initially. I do think he's a good coach. And I do think he's got something about him. I do. I'm not going to try and run him into the ground in that regard. He's a good coach. But is he going to be able to walk in and wrestle back control of that dressing room and that club? Does he have the gravitas to do it? If I was a United fan right now, I'm trying to be realistic, I think Xavi Hernandez is the man who could walk into that dressing room and say, I've won more than all of you. Just shut the fuck up. I'm here. Let's listen to me. I think he'd be the one, if I was a United fan, that I'd be thinking of. So if it's going to be AMORIM, I mean, it's going to be AMORIM, but I don't know that stylistically, from the outside anyway, that it looks like a good natural fit. No, thank you. We don't want your suggestion of Xavi because we know you wouldn't take him at Liverpool. I think, though, that's an unfair comparison, as an example. I'm not sitting here saying Xavi Hernandez is a bad coach. Whether we take him at Liverpool or not, I think is kind of an irrelevant point to the conversation, because our club managed to go and find a coach that came in and fits with the way that we play. And yes, he's tweaked things, but ultimately there was joined up thinking going on there. So, you know, whether Xavi would or wouldn't suit Liverpool is more down to a stylistic thing rather than him not being good enough. So think of it from that perspective. It'll be fun to crush AMORIM after he tried to cash grab us in the summer, with him becoming the new United coach. It will be funny to see the United fan reaction if he is appointed, because all of a sudden he will be, you know, the greatest thing since sliced bread. Do you remember when Ten Hag came in? It was all like, oh, United are back, yada yada. They just need to show a little bit more humility and realise that there are big problems at Manchester United, and throwing money at it hasn't solved it, because Ten Hag spent more than double what Liverpool have spent in the same time period, 600 and something million quid. So Guillaume Balaguer is saying this: Ruben Amorim might decide to wait for Manchester City if Pep leaves, but United are pushing for a deal. Marco Silva has also been approached by United. Interesting. So let's play this out a little bit. So Ruben Amorim, let's say, turns down United and waits for Manchester City. And then in January time, Manchester City are found guilty of some of those charges. And they face points deductions, expulsion from the league, whatever. I still find it mad in my own mind that there is even any consideration given to going to Manchester City from players and coaches with what they have facing them. I don't... It's a big gamble if you're Amorim. It's a big gamble either way. If you go to United, it could be a graveyard for your career. If you wait for City, you could be waiting for a club that are going to be docked points, thrown out of Europe, relegated. Or maybe it all comes up rosy for Man City and they're found not guilty of all the charges because of they're a great team of solicitors, and definitely not because of a loophole, definitely because they did nothing wrong whatsoever. Amorim will haunt us. I still wanted him over anybody in the summer. Look, he's a good coach, but I understand why Liverpool went for Arne Slot. If you look at the style of what we play, the players that we have at the club, and you have to say, and look, you know I'm very outspoken when it needs to be about the higher-ups at Liverpool, but Hughes, Edwards and the recruitment team and whoever else came to the decision to go with Arne Slot. Phenomenal decision, because the drop-off has been minuscule. The ease at which we've transitioned into Arne Slot, I think you have to just say, wow. You know, it's everybody, from fans to media, we were all expecting a bit more of a drop-off, and it's to Arne's credit and to the recruitment team of the club's credit, and of course the coaches and the players' credit as well, that this has been a somewhat seamless transition.